everybody, this episode we have a lot on woodpeckers, and the snowstorm that we had last week brought a pine warbler to my nut feeder. Unfortunately, I only had my cell phone handy, so the footage is a little bit out of focus. Anyway, warblers are certainly on the move, so please keep your feeders filled. Nuts and suet are particularly popular this time of the year. Keep your eyes peeled, and if you have binoculars, bring them wherever you go. This year, Global Big Day is on May 8th, so please mark your calendars. What is a Global Big Day? Well, it's a day when the whole world gets together to celebrate birds, to count birds, and then log that data into a global database where scientists can see what's happening to bird populations all over the world. Last year, 175 countries participated. So what's required of you? Well, if you can spare 5 to 10 minutes on that day, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just count birds in your backyard, log them with eBird, and that's it. If you have more than 10 minutes, then you can go to different locations and you can count birds all day long. Just don't forget to log them with eBird. So whatever you can do will be very helpful. Carol Johnson from Indiana has 2 cedar posts with lights at the end of her driveway. Downy woodpeckers have been making holes in those cedar posts. She fills the holes with dowel rods, but as soon as she fills one hole, woodpeckers come back and make more holes. So she's asking Dr. Bird if there is anything that can be done to stop woodpeckers from drilling holes.
Hi Carol, and to anyone else out there having woodpeckers damaging their homes and related wooden structures. This is one of the questions I dread getting the most, mainly because stopping woodpeckers from drilling holes in anything made of cedar, or any other wood for that matter, is no easy task. Despite what folks might tell you, there really is no magic bullet, other than exclusion with nets, which is often impractical on the walls of a house. Even Carol's cedar light poles are not easy to protect from woodpeckers. There are 4 potential reasons why woodpeckers drill into house siding and other wooden structures. First, they do it to make as much noise as possible in the breeding season to both attract a mate and repel territorial intruders. Second, they might be wanting to create a cavity for either nesting or roosting. Third, some woodpecker species drill small holes in which to store seeds. And fourth, there could be an insect infestation in your siding that you don't even know about. In other words, you could have a much bigger problem than just woodpeckers. I checked online to see if someone had discovered that magic bullet, and I did find a website focused on how to stop woodpecker damage in 5 easy ways. You just have to Google the woodpecker remover and it'll come up. To be honest, the advice given is probably as good as you're going to get. Sometimes frequently harassing the birds with garden hoses and noisemakers could drive them off, but to be honest, if they've found a good spot to make loud noises with their pecking in the breeding season, they can be quite persistent. Please let me know if anything you try ends up being effective.
Spring is a big cleanup time, but if you have dead or dying trees and branches, please don't rush to cut them down. Over 80 species of birds and other wildlife are dependent on those dead trees. They're also called snags. They use them for resting, for nesting, for storing food. Woodpeckers particularly love decaying and dying trees because their wood is so much softer and nicer to peck than live trees or even your houses. And then of course, tons of insects live in dying trees, and those insects attract tons of birds, woodpeckers in particular. But if you do have to cut some dead branches or cut that dead tree down for safety reasons, please consider chopping off part of it, or if you do have to chop the whole thing, keep the trunk, the dead trunk, somewhere on your property because it will attract tons of birds and wildlife as well.
When a woodpecker does what it does best, peck, some amazing natural forces and evolved adaptations come into play. According to studies, the chisel-like bills of an average-sized woodpecker hammers into the wood at a rate of 16 times per second. That's nearly 1,000 blows a minute. Some liken the rate of fire of a woodpecker to a machine gun, something 99.99% of us thankfully are only familiar with us on our TV and movie screens. But not just as fast as a machine gun, doubly fast. That's an impact velocity of about 1,300 miles an hour. In short, the bird's head travels more than twice the speed of a moving bullet. To prevent headaches, special muscles in the head pull the bird's brain case away from its beak during each blow, and moreover, the skull and beak are separated by a spongy, shock-absorbent cartilage to combat G-forces 1,000 times the force of gravity. But here's a new piece of this incredible puzzle. Since we often use the word hammer in association with woodpeckers, what keeps the bill from just sticking in the tree like a hammered nail would do? In a recent study, scientists took some high-speed videos of two black woodpeckers, a fairly good-sized bird in Europe, pecking away at hardwood trunks in zoos, and then analyzed them frame by frame. They discovered another one of the bird's secret weapons. They have the ability to move the upper and lower beaks independently. When the tip of the bill contacts the wood, the bird's head rotates to the side a wee tiny bit, lifting the upper part of the beak and twisting a little in the other direction. This action pulls open the bill enough to create free space between the beak tip and the wood at the bottom of the punctured hole to allow the woodpecker to retract its beak. As we find out more about the amazing adaptations of these wood-drilling birds, it puts them right up there with the hummingbirds, at least in my books.
Last fall, like the pandemic wasn't enough, one more thing that gave a lot of people a fright was the appearance of what the media call the Asian murder hornets in the USA and Canada. So far, the issue has been contained here, but Europe hasn't been as lucky. And even though Asian hornets are not that dangerous to humans, they do pose a huge threat to honeybees. You see, one hornet can kill up to 50 honeybees a day. Asian hornets were spotted in Spain for the first time in 2010, and ever since then they have spread throughout Europe rather happily. But not all hope is lost. Nature is wonderful that way. It turns out that the European honey buzzard, also known as the bird, finds these hornets rather tasty, and it has been a lot more successful at destroying hornets' nests than humans have. The only issue that buzzards were having were pesticides that humans were spreading all over the nests. These pesticides were killing buzzards. So now researchers are encouraging everyone to stop using pesticides to make it easier for the buzzards to get to the Asian hornets' nests. Avangrid Renewables, a wind turbine company in California, is looking for ways to pay it forward. With the continuing growth of the California condor population, the company is concerned that their 126 turbines operating as part of the Manzana Wind Project may pose a threat to the recovering population. They have partnered up with the Oregon Zoo to get involved in their captive breeding program and are assuming costs of raising several condor chicks that will be later released into the wild. And even though there haven't been any deaths, condor deaths related to the collisions with turbines, the company is still committed to helping out. Well, it's time to say goodbye. Our photo contest is still open. It's migratory birds. Please remember to write the names of the birds. And if you have 5 to 10 minutes, please count birds on May 8th and log them with eBird. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you in 2 weeks.